the Monday Night Raw after Clash of the Castle. How surprised were you when you heard Seth Rollins' music to open Monday Night Raw?
It was a really nice surprise. It was like
Yes.
a 9 out of 10 surprise for me. Of course, with Seth Rollins' injury being, was it an MCL?
It was a knee. So yeah, it had
Yeah,
something to do with MCL, ACL,
yeah,
something. It
because
was very tweaked. Let's put it that way.
yeah, because depending on the severity of it, he could have been out for like months, like
Yeah.
potentially even the rest of the year. But for him to have like a quick turnaround such as this, he's his first match back is July 6th. He was out since April. About 3 month turnaround, not too shabby.
Yeah, and I'm sure he needed that mental break too after just grinding for a whole year to establish the World Heavyweight Championship yet again.
Mhm.
So I was pleasantly surprised. I liked how it got no dirt sheet coverage, and it was a genuine wow. And it made him feel bigger, which magnified this match here at Money in the Bank, in my opinion, because Priest is coming out of the CM Punk Drew McIntyre angle where he had a really good performance. That knee spot was pretty scary for him, but he
Mhm.
grinded through it and he wasn't hurt. He had a good performance. He defeated Drew McIntyre. End of story, right? So
Mhm.
that story continues. So where is Damian Priest? He's stacking up these wins. Some of them, Jay Uso, cleanish. Drew McIntyre, dirty-ish, so to speak. It's not like the Judgment Day is saving him, but his whole presentation was he doesn't need the Judgment Day. He wants to be a leader, and it's been a slow, slow, slow babyface turn. So, all that being said, do you feel that Damian Priest star is growing and Seth Rollins star is so bright? How dim is Priest compared to Seth from a star power standpoint?
I mean, if you think about it, this was Priest's first time breaking out on his own in a singles capacity. For
Yep.
the bulk of last year, he was teaming with Finn, getting that story on its trajectory. You had the whole Damien Finn not getting along until Rio brought them together until they won the tag titles. And
Still
then
going
after,
on, by the way.
yeah, yeah, it's still going on. But that's the beauty of this like storytelling. Like you don't need
Yeah.
to blow it off right away. You could reference things that happened months and months ago and bring them back here. And you're like, that makes sense. Like any
Sure.
other television show that goes off seasons and seasons, like things from episode 2 will get called back from episode to the season finale, for instance. And I think
Yep.
what makes wrestling great, at least nowadays, you like to reward the fans for paying attention, which is why we see all those Triple H backstage like goings on in interviews where you see something in the back, like some commotion, some discussion of two parties talking, whatever it may be. And with Damian Priest, being a cash in champion, as I like to call him, is a double edged sword. The
Mhm.
pro is obviously your champion. The con is more often than not, those championship reigns aren't well looked upon or booked well because you cashed in on a champion that wasn't really like a tentative.
A
You know what I
little
mean?
shaky on the win. Yeah.
I mean, like even we talk about the historic of Edge's cash in, Dolph's cash in, Big E's cash in, but
Short runs.
not only short runs, but not very like memorable. Edge's was fine because like he packed in like 3 weeks worth of like months and months of
Flair
television.
ladder match. Yeah, the two
Yeah,
Cena matches. Yeah.
but the overall run wasn't very much to write home about. The moment was amazing,
Yeah.
but the
Unbelievable.
actual run was eclipsed by the moment. And I think with Priest, what they did that was smart here, they're kind of making his championship run kind of being overshadowed with this story. And the story is surrounded by Priest and breaking away from the Judgment Day. And even if he can't, he's obviously not going to be the champion that Seth was. So how do you make it different? He's going to be the second champion. Well, really third technically, but he's the second reign. You know what I
Yep.
mean? With this world championship. So how do you make it different? You have the story surrounding the title reign. It's very similar to the Undertaker in '97. His reign was overshadowed by, the Shawn and Brett stuff. But at the same time, you have this story about Paul Bearer revealing that Kane was, still alive, and Paul Bearer kind of blackmailing Taker into being like, a duo again. And with Priest, it's and kind of similar because now with Rhea out, the Judgment Day stuff, at least like on paper, should be all about him. But he's still kind of like in the background trying to be this noble champion and proving that he's this noble champion while all this underhanded stuff is going on with the Judgment Day. So I think making this reign, quote unquote, more storyline driven towards Priest is going to help him more in the long run.
For
And
sure.
depending when this championship reign ends, and I think we're going to get to those imposed stipulations Seth and Priest both agreed to. Depending on how that goes, Priest's next run with a world championship is going to be much different and much more accepted among the audience.
Now we look at this graphic below us here, Richie. Does
Mhm.
Priest look goofy, or does he look, let's just say, not usual? Does the belt look good on him, so to speak?
I think it looks fine on him. I
He
think
doesn't look
it's
out of
kind of.
place. It
I mean, if you think about it, Priest, has he been considered a solo main event act by himself? No, not until this moment right here. Because who is Damian Priest as a character without the Judgment Day?
we don't know yet.
Exactly. And with that, we're in this weird position where Damian Priest, I think he's fine in all the backstage segments. I think and the in-ring promo side, I think there's still that disconnect with the audience because, again, like you were mentioning before, it's the slow turn. So not everybody is going to be on his side right away. And of course, he's butting heads with Finn Balor, and you know as well as I do with the internet wrestling community or whatever. Finn has been around a lot longer, which means he has more staying power with the audience at hand. So making Damian Priest the babyface out of this is going to be an uphill battle regardless. What they're doing is smart in that Damian Priest is showing different ways on combating the Judgment Day, whether it's like being against Liv Morgan, who is the top heel on Raw right now, that Rhea Ripley's hurt. So, and even this past Monday with Damien saying, I was talking to Rhea. So you still have that close association with the popular Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. So Damien is interacting with all these different players and factors involved with the Judgment Day. And even though it's a lot, it's building him character development and who he is as a character. And once you figure all that out, that's when people are going to start accepting him as a main event player. And his matches so far have, delivered. I think like I'm whelmed by them. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm just kind of
Oh, they're
whelmed.
definitely good. They're very good at times, for sure.
Mhm. And I think with Damian Priest, I think why it kind of looks awkward, just like one seeing him as the world champion, is that this is still a new championship lineage.
Mhm.
You have Seth Rollins, you have Drew McIntyre. Obviously, Damian Priest, even though he's older than all of them, is like going to be third on
New.
everybody's like favorite list when it compares. If you put all three of them in the same like pool, so to speak, Damian Priest is maybe he'll be two in some people's eyes, but more often than not, he's going to be number three. And that's the biggest thing to overcome with this run. And I think this is more, people like to say transitional run. I think it's a transitional in a different sense, in that this is a transition for Damian Priest as a character rather than a world champion.
Yeah, that's a good point. The belt is kind of transitioning him into that babyface role.
Mhm.
And at the start of it, he's Money in the Bank, wins it dirty. And then at the end of it, perhaps he loses it clean, which kind of makes him too, or it evolves the Judgment Day into that celebratory, oh my God, we did it. We ultimate opportunists. And
Mhm.
then at the end, well, we lost because we got greedy. We got in each other's way.
Right.
Our directions, our alignments, our visions were not all on the same page. Our greed perhaps got in our way as a way too. Next question for you, Richie.
Mhm.
Rhea Ripley, her return. Will Damian Priest be world heavyweight champion?
No.
Oh, okay. When do you think Rhea Ripley will return?
After SummerSlam.
So you think Gunther is looking pretty much slotted in as the challenger for the world heavyweight championship
Mhm.
at SummerSlam. Do you foresee him, prediction time,
Mhm.
facing Damian Priest or Seth freaking Rollins?
Damian Priest.
Okay, so what's going on in the finish here at Money in the Bank?
I think we see a false finish with Finn trying to help Damien. Damien yelling at Finn. Seth turns around, hits a move, whether it's a pedigree, whether it's a curb stomp. We get 1-2, we get a kick out. And then it's going to lead into the finish of Seth Rollins losing to Damian Priest, because I don't see them kicking Damian Priest out or Damian Priest leaving at Money in the Bank. I don't see that happening. I had a couple theories in my head on like how this will turn out, and with the stipulations, if Damian loses, he's out the Judgment Day. If Seth loses, he can't challenge for the World Championship so long as Priest is champion. And I think it's a misdirection, because during the weeks we've been seeing like, tension between Priest and the Judgment Day. But the thing is, it's not going to be a clean split. So this stipulation isn't going to hurt against Priest. I think it's going to be hurt against Rollins. And if you think about it, if Priest were to drop the championship to Gunther, it's not that much of a sacrifice anyway. Yeah. So with that, what do you do with Seth Rollins? Originally in my head, like before certain other factors happened, I thought a potential would be Roman Reigns costing Seth Rollins the championship match, kind of like an eye for an eye situation from WrestleMania.
Doesn't seem like that's likely anymore, though.
Yeah, especially with like, bloodline stuff. But again, it could also play into the bloodline where it's just kind of like Roman oversaw his hate for Seth rather than attend to bloodline business. So it's just like you could play it that way. I just don't think they're going to. And also, you can play off, since the next pay-per-view after Money in the Bank is SummerSlam, you could do Finn and Rollins 3. They have already had 2 matches at SummerSlam before. And if Finn costs Rollins the championship, then you have the built-in story to weave in right there.
Yeah, that ain't too bad. I do foresee Seth being on the money or being on the SummerSlam card. Mm-hmm. All right. I think Gunther is going to be the World Heavyweight Champion at SummerSlam. I think he should be. My feeling is it would mean more for Gunther to defeat Seth Rollins, even though it's a title reign, a month long or whatever. Mm-hmm. But because you think of Gunther, he's going to be this generational talent, and it's going to live in infamy for him winning his first world title. And the legacy of this belt was built by Seth Rollins. We veered to Drew McIntyre for 5 minutes and 55 seconds. And then we transitioned to Damian Priest for 4 or 5 months. And then we just go back to the face of this belt, Seth Rollins, to the face of the next generation, Gunther. That's how I look at it in a perfect world. But I do think that Gunther is going to... You mentioned a fuck finish, right? I can see a way that it is a triple threat at SummerSlam, and then Gunther isn't involved in the pinfall, and then wins at Clash of the Castle, or at Berlin. What is the Germany show? Bash at Berlin. Mm-hmm. I can see Gunther winning there. Mm-hmm. In maybe they have that fuck finish. Seth has means, because there is a stipulation here. Seth has means to work himself into the title match at SummerSlam, and then maybe that's how we get to there. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's how I kind of look at it. But I think by Labor Day, Gunther will be your World Heavyweight Champion regardless. Do you think it means more for Gunther? Do you believe? Well, first of all, do you agree with my sentiment on Gunther being the future of the company? Do you think it means more for him to defeat Priest, Seth, or it doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter in my opinion, because if you think about it, depending on how it is, Seth would have the championship for so little time. You can't have the same feeling of Seth Rollins. Like if Seth was the champion like previous, if it was WrestleMania this year and he has had a long reign with the championship with all these defenses and he's synonymous with the champion, then you have Gunther beat him. That would have been the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, but the moment of now, I don't think you think of Seth in the moment. I think you think of Gunther in the moment. But I get your sentiment.
With the same thing with Gunther, it's Priest trying to prove that he is world champion, right? And take on all comers. And now you have Gunther, who this is his first world championship. Him being champion and Seth being the challenger trying to challenge Gunther, I think is a much more amusing option, because with Gunther, he's going to have, if he has even an iota of the journey or reign he's had as Intercontinental Champion in this world title run,
a fraction of it, it's going to be monumental.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it doesn't matter how it started. And if you remember, who did he defeat for the Intercontinental Championship?
Ricochet.
Yeah, and was Ricochet really positioned as a big credible champion? No. So with Damian Priest, he's booked a lot better than Ricochet, and Gunther, he's going to take it to that next level. And I think with Gunther as world champion, one, you have Priest lose in a quote unquote historic moment where it's Gunther's first reign as world champion. And then you have Gunther versus Seth. You have Gunther versus Finn. You have Gunther versus Jay. You have
Yep.
Gunther versus I don't know, Uncle Howdy, whatever. If they wanted to do that, they could do that. But you have
Main event
Gunther,
anywhere in the country.
yeah, you know, and it's like you have Gunther defeat all these top guys. Because if he defeats Seth, where's the story from there?
Yeah, well,
You know, you have Seth coming back to challenge him again, but if Gunther beats him twice in a row, where do you take Seth from there?
yeah, I feel you. But where's Seth coming off a loss here? So it's just kind of like Seth's in that weird transition where we kind of always found himself when he was kind of always
He's
declining down the card. I don't think
I
under
wouldn't
Triple H he'll be
I
fine,
wouldn't
but
I
you get
wouldn't
what I'm
even
saying.
say declining. I mean, like obviously, like after world and heavyweight champion, all you can do is go down from there, you know. But at the same time, Seth Rollins is evergreen now. He's in that
Oh,
evergreen role
yeah, he has a
of
new guy pushing his buttons. I think you have a little more lasting power.
yeah, you
I'm
know. So
talking
it's like
he's constantly evolved as a character, but his character
yeah.
seems like it's in a good place.
Mhm.
That's always his issue.
Yeah, you know, and it's just kind of like now he's in this position where he can afford to take losses and build other stars up. And I think Seth Rollins is the guy that should face Gunther in the future. But if he's the champion and Gunther pins Seth, hypothetically, where do you go from there? There's not much you could go from that story standpoint, unless Seth is trying to fight his way back up. But after he wins the world championship, after he had the reign that he had, where do you go from there? With Seth, it's all about the evolution of his character, and it has to be in a fresh moment. I think him as the world champion, especially, would cut Priest out from under his legs as champion. I think Priest, if you want to really solidify that babyface turn, you put him in a heel match with Gunther, and then you just kind of like have him like ward off like any Judgment Day interference, like even though he's getting beat down, beat down, beat down, and then let him show some fire, some valiance, and then have Gunther pin him at the end, and that's going to be Damian Priest's downfall, not only as world champion, but with the Judgment Day because he refused Judgment Day's help. You know,
I know, but then his Gunther's winning with a bunch of jabrones around the ring. The ring is sacred to Gunther. He needs to win it in a one-on-one classic. That's how I look
yeah,
at it.
it
Also,
would be, but because there would be no interference. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
So it's just like
I think
same thing here. You know.
regardless, we're in agreement that Gunther should be champion sooner than later, and
Mhm.
we're in agreement that we're kind of talking more about Gunther than these two guys. But final say, you
Yep.
think Damian Priest is winning at Money in the Bank? If I were to put money on it, I would agree. I would
Mhm.
kind of low key prefer Seth and start the Priest Judgment Day
Mhm.
build to the crescendo that it will probably happen in the fall. I would start
Yeah.
that now because that's starting to overboil than the title. And the title should be a little bit more important, even though it is the focus, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, you know, and the title should be the focus. The thing is, it's like this title is focused differently than how Seth held it, because now the championship is a part of the bigger story about changing Damian
Yeah,
Priest as the character and evolving the Judgment Day as a faction. And then when you have that reign with Gunther, then the championship is going to be the Gunther character, so to speak.
cool. Richie, we know where to find you, buddy. Right
Mhm.
under there. Retold and relived Richie Mars. Black Saturday was the latest episode this week. Check it out. The history lesson there on the Black Saturday.
Mhm.
TBS, Vince McMahon, NWA saga, Bill Watts action, and sprinkled in a little AEW talk too on how that would relate on modern fans. So
Yeah.
that was a very nostalgia based episode, and I enjoyed it, Richie.
I mean, yeah, it's been this month. It's going to be 40 years, if you could believe it.
That's crazy. That's older than both of us, pal.
Yeah. You know, I
So,
was gonna
Rich,
say I was gonna say combined, but you know, that's that's putting the cart before the horse.
a little gray here. I'm about 37,
Yeah.
38 years old. You know what I mean?
You know, yeah, you're getting seasoned, man. It's all right.
It's all right, buddy. All right. Thanks, pal. See you on the next one.
And thank you. You as well. Thank you for having me.
Always.